What's up, my friends? Welcome to another video. Today we're going to do a quick Q&A, but before we dive into that, I wanted to show you that today I'm rocking the Crypto Junkie merch. Usually this or some of the Jameson Brandon Trendy Goat merch as well. You can check that out in the links below. Any support goes a long way, but honestly, we only make a couple dollars, maybe $2 to $5 off of these shirts, the hoodies, the long sleeves, and the phone cases. But it goes a long way for what we do, and so that support is much appreciated. Thank you. All right, let's jump into this question, which I get all the time. It's a variation of how do I be successful as an entrepreneur? And I think the best way for me to tackle that would really be to talk about the biggest mistakes that I think entrepreneurs make. Throughout this, I'm gonna use myself as an example because I think I'm a really good example. Just different parts of the journey itself, right? I've made millions of dollars gross and net, and I've also been homeless several times, been deep down into shit after I had already a large amount of success. So past doesn't prove future by any means. Even knowing something doesn't mean that you're gonna do it. So I think a great place to start would be the 4 phases of knowing, which is unconscious incompetence, which is that you don't know what you don't know. And then you move into conscious incompetence, which is that you don't know what to do here, or you know that you don't know this thing. And then we hit that 3rd phase, I guess you'd call it, which is conscious competence. That's where you know what you know. And even that's still not enough. And then the final stage or phase of it is that there's the unconscious competence, which is then where you're just doing unconsciously. That usually comes when you know the skill or the trade and you've been doing it for a really long time, to where you no longer have to be aware of really what you're doing consciously, and you're just doing it. What's interesting about all of those 4 phases is, yes, they're true and it's good sound bites and all that, but depending on what you got going on in your life, depending on the outside stressors, depending on your worldviews, your beliefs, and the amount of just sheer pressure you're under, you might break those rules. You might not behave in a way that makes sense based on the amount of knowledge and understanding you have. So information is great, understanding is even better. Life experience is the best. That is really the guide. That is really the way that we make it through being an entrepreneur and having success, is that it really does take making the mistakes, and a lot of times making the mistakes over and over and over again, and then getting to that point to where finally you're aware of it. There's been so much pain, so much suffering around that thing, that then you can't do it anymore. Like, you can't screw up in that sort of way anymore because it's just created so much pain and suffering in your life. That, I think, is true for me. I don't know if I've intentionally made things really hard for myself to where I've ended up suffering a lot, or maybe that's just part of my karmic debt and part of what I'm here to kind of work off. I think that we've lived in a time of insane prosperity and easy money since about 2013, especially with social media. I think 2013 is really the year when social media broke out, and it wasn't called this back then, but the ground was being set back then for influencers. Which, if you look now, everyone wants to be an influencer. Everybody is an influencer, whether they're paying for follows and likes and shares and the exposure, or they're getting it organically, doesn't really matter. There's like this perpetuated state of young people, whether it's millennials or up into their 30s, who they have a following, and that's making them money, and that's making them an income, but I don't think they really understand business, and I don't think they really understand marketing. Marketing in and of itself is pretty simple. You create an offer and you put that offer in front of people that are the target demographic, or the best possible people that would want to buy that offer based on the pain points that they have going on in their life. But there's a lot of like nuances that I feel like has been lost. Like, how many people do you know that know what the market sophistication levels are that Eugene Schwartz talked about in the 70s, in the 60s? How many people do you know actually understand direct marketing advertising, even though Facebook ads and Google ads and YouTube ads are completely taking over, and new media, display media, is taking over? It doesn't matter. Understanding all that gives you advantages, because you can assume that most of the guys playing in this game, and I'm not just talking about the influencer space, I'm talking about any skill set space, they are trying to shortcut everything. You can assume that. They're also mostly full of shit. You can assume that too. So if you are a little bit more honest, a little bit more knowledgeable, if you understand a little bit more, if you're listening a little bit better, if you're a little sharper than the next guy, the inches of how you get ahead, if you're a little bit more real and raw, then in the influencer side, that's becoming more popular, and it has been for the last 2-3 years. The guys who all of a sudden want to be honest and tell you about everything going on in their life and all the struggles besides the good things, those guys got really, really popular. It's because they were willing to be 1 or 10% more honest than the rest. And the rest were completely full of shit, so I mean, it was fairly easy for them to grab up market share. And I feel like we're at another crossroads because a lot of social media platforms now are starting to deplatform people if they don't like what you have to say. There's these weird agendas now that are becoming clear, political agendas that are becoming crystal clear on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. So that the ease of being an influencer, I think has completely changed. And I think relying on one stream of income is a common mistake. And it's a mistake that I've made over and over again. In fact, I made it again here in 2018, which is where I got comfortable and I forgot to keep growing and I forgot to keep building. So Average Millionaire, you guys know, if you watched my last video, has 3 to 7 streams of income. And that's 100% true because when I was making millions of dollars, I had at least that, if not more. And I was always looking at what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing. I was so hungry, so horny for it, you know? And the average broke person has a day job, maybe a side hustle, right? Now in the last video, we talked about how to really take a side hustle and make it pay you based on just trends you're seeing in the market or something you're seeing in your neighborhood happening all of a sudden, like you're a cabinet guy and all of a sudden your neighborhood is building a bunch of new houses. Become that cabinet guy that puts all the cabinets in those new houses. In fact, somebody in the community is doing this right now, which is where I literally just got that obscure example from in my mind. There's a million examples like that. And then think, how can I leverage my existing assets already? Another example from the community, a guy's got a bunch of beautiful cars. How do we integrate that to sell my stuff, other people's stuff? What kind of products or services could we use to sell that with, right? But anyways, I'm getting a little bit off track because we're talking about succeeding and mistakes and entrepreneurship. I think a lot of millennials are really cocky right now and they're really arrogant, meaning that because they've been able to make easy money, they think making money is easy and they're failing to learn from the past in a big, big way. And that's probably the biggest takeaway that I'll give you in this video is that even if you don't give a what's happened in the past, go study the Great Depression. Go study these other times in economic history when things went from insane abundance and a plethora of everything you could imagine in easy money to really hard money. Because in the times of really hard money, when there's 100 people per job or 1,000 people per job, the little things that you might be ignoring right now, the little things that, yeah, I'll get to it, I'm just feeling lazy today, I'm comfortable because I'm making good money, all those little things that you're avoiding now will come to bite you in the ass later. So when the economy flips and it becomes harder and there's, like I said, 100 people lined up for, let's say, a graphic design job, a videographer job, something like that, the experience that you've got is going to come that much more into the scope and under the magnifying glass. And the little things that you've done and the little ways that you can connect with somebody, the places you've gone, the things that you've done, the different styles that you've shot, and your overall skill sets are all going to be that much more important. So while I think it's amazing that so many people have been able to make really easy money, I think for a lot of, especially the millennial age group, is that they're going to be in for a rude awakening. And it totally makes sense. You know, the college model is proven to not really work anymore, and it's not really the most cost-effective way to grow and to get the skill sets to then go and make money, and it's not necessary anymore. But we need to fill that gap with something, whether you're learning from Udemy or YouTube videos or some other sort of digital online course structure. You got to be constantly getting skills, constantly learning the culture of your niche and the culture of the world so that you can continue to stay up to date on how to talk to those people. Because at the end of the day, remember what I said, it comes back to marketing. We have an offer, we got to get that offer in front of people who are in the most pain and need that offer the most. I'll say that with my experience in the cryptocurrency industry over the last year, without a doubt, 99.9% of the crypto industry does not know how to market. In fact, a lot of them actually think marketing is like a scam. They think marketing is like bullshit and scammy and scummy. And that just proves their lack of understanding, really, because everything is marketed. Everything that you see that's being sold and sold well was because of marketing. They took a marketing plan and turned that into a campaign and advertised it, and they had a success level. Another thing I want to talk about actually is when you start getting it good, you start getting the money coming in, don't think that, especially if your niche is influencer or anything that's like vanity based and in the public eye, don't think that now because you just made $500,000 you have to go buy a Lambo because that's going to take you to the next level. I would try to chunk it down a little bit differently than that and a little smaller than that, and really try to set yourself up and diversify yourself for any changes, any sudden changes that might happen in the economy. You know, most millennials you talk to, they don't have a great grasp on the actual economy itself, the global economy. Most, for that matter, I could honestly say that most people don't. So it doesn't really matter an age group there, but when you start getting it good and you start making some money, get a backup plan, get a small fund, which, you know, David Ramsey calls an fund, you know, get a passport, get a backup plan, start really trying to diversify yourself out to ensure what? To ensure sovereignty. That's really the name of the game, is because $20,000 per Instagram post, or however you're doing, you know, $20,000 to go and do a video job or a graphic design job, that could dry up tomorrow. Then what are you going to do? How are you going to ensure safety and security for yourself and for your family? And that's the stuff, that's the long ball that I think a lot of people miss. So here we are at the end of 2018. One thing that I would suggest you start doing is taking November, taking December to really reflect on that past year and setting solid goals for the next year. Set rolling goals, you know, set a 3-month goals, 30-day goals, 60-day goals, and in the longer term stuff, where do I want to be in a year or two? Do you think Instagram will still be around the same way in a year from now? And I know I'm using influencer kind of marketing talk as a lot of this, but it applies all the same to the mistakes that are being made. Is it short-sightedness versus playing the long ball? And you need a little bit of both. So you need to, yes, this is great, we got the next 60 days of whatever filled out and that money's coming in. What's the next 12 and 24 months look like? What if something big changes and shifts? What are we gonna do? So that's where the additional streams of income conversation comes back into the picture once again, because if something completely goes away like Instagram, then hey, we still got YouTube. Or if I get completely deplatformed, then what is my backup plan for that? Do I have a private community, something on my servers? Do I have their email addresses? Do I have their phone numbers? Do I have their physical addresses? You know, how many different ways and in how many different places do I have that data backed up? And do I have that backed up to me on my hard drives? Or is it just sitting in my Shopify back office? Or is it sitting in my Teespring back office? So continually making sure that you've actually got the data and you're managing that customer data on your end is vital, I think. And constantly reaching out to them, never getting comfortable, constantly staying in contact with them, I think is important too. If you're shooting videos, there's no reason why you can't send out emails to let them know that you just shot a new video, or hey, writing out in text talking about the next video or the next series that you're doing. All of that is 100% relevant. I just don't see a lot of people doing it. Okay, so I think I've rambled on long enough. I think you guys get the point. Those are some of the things that I've personally made the mistake with, and I know now to be really, really valuable. But the last thing I'll leave you with is that you have to be mindful of your own echo chamber. You have to be mindful of your own bubble that you create for yourself, meaning that you've got a way that you look at the world. You've got your set of worldviews, you've got your beliefs, you've got your opinions, and they're all based on experiences. So if you want to break out of that, if you want to graduate, if you want to grow, to become a better person, but also to make more money, because you will make more money doing this and be more successful as an entrepreneur, constantly push yourself. And it really boils down to being comfortable with being uncomfortable. There's a lot of guys out there who can do it and a lot of guys who just don't, because they don't think that it matters. They don't think it's significant. Experiences form the habits, which then become the opinions and then become the beliefs and then become the character traits years and years down the road. And if you never challenge that, if you never push to see what else is possible, what you're capable of in any sort of way, then you're just going to completely stay put and never really move. And you can expect that your revenue and that your money that you're making will do the same. It will flatline and then start to go down. And you'll sit there scratching your head going, what happened? If you're brand new to the channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. If you like this video, just want to show some support for the YouTube algorithms, click this like button underneath. And if you got something to say, I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to interact with you down below in the comments section. Okay, that's it, my friends. See ya.